Hey guys, this is your professor, Tom Magnarelli. Welcome to week 2 of our news writing class. Let's get right into it. I think you guys did a great job so far. It was really good to read your introduction discussions, get to know a little bit about you, a little bit about what news you're getting, where you're getting it from. So I thought that was great. You did a good job with that. I see a lot of you are getting your journals in. That's great too. And I'll be reading those this week. And so I'm looking forward to that. So moving on into week 2, we're going to be learning about the basic news story. So the first thing I want you to do this week is read chapter 2 in your textbook. What you're basically going to learn is this is the structure of a news story. So you're going to learn about how to use quotes and attribution from sources. All news stories must have a single focus and elaboration of that central idea. The main questions any news story should ask or should answer is who, what, when, where, why, how, and so what. You're going to learn a little bit about the inverted pyramid structure, which is basically to put the most interesting information high in the story. And I'm going to go over the chapter a little bit with you. But before we do that, what I want to do is share my screen and show you guys Blackboard. So we have Unit 2, the basic news story. You're going to learn the elements of a basic news story, how to use quotes and attribution, and you're going to learn style concepts, how to write for ages, percentages, addresses, money, numbers, titles, times, geographic locations, so things like that. So we have two things are going to be due this week. We have a discussion called Online Focus. That's going to be due on Thursday, February 10th. And we have an assignment. The basic news story is going to be due on Sunday, February 13th. So like I said, what I want you to start is by doing read chapter 2, the basic news story in your textbook. And like I said, we'll go over that in a second, but there's something I want to show you first before we do that. A lot of you were talking about in your introductions, um, you want to know, how do I distinguish between if a news organization is biased or not? And so we have this great chart here. This is called the media bias chart. So I've included this on your Blackboard. And what you'll want to do is just click on it and take a look at it. So what is this? This was created by Ad Fontes Media. This is a media watchdog organization. It's known for this media bias chart, which constantly gets updated. It rates media sources in terms of political bias and reliability. So let's take a look at the chart for a second. If we look at the vertical side, what we have over here is at the very top, we have fact reporting. So that's what we're interested in. We want reporting that is based on the facts. Right below that would be mostly analysis or a mix of fact reporting and analysis. Below that, analysis or a high variation in reliability. Below that, opinion or high variation in reliability. Below that, selective, incomplete, unfair, persuasion, propaganda, or other issues. So the news value and reliability we see on this side goes less and less, all the way down to contains misleading information, contains inaccurate, fabricated information. We definitely don't want that. Okay, that's the vertical column. On the horizontal side, what we have right in the middle is middle of the road. This is the bias, right? And we can go left or we can go right. So we skew a little bit to the left, or you can skew a little bit to the right. It can become hyper partisan left, or it can become hyper partisan right. then you have the most extreme on the ends here, okay? So what we're looking for is, we want stuff that's in the middle. This is fact reporting, and this is middle of the road. So you have like AP, Associated Press. These are the journalists that are all over the country. Reuters is a similar outlet. There's these two podcasts. You've got an NPR podcast. You've got a Wall Street Journal podcast on here. This is PBS, CBS, ABC, NBC, BBC, Wall Street Journal. So these are all good outlets to use. You've got NPR, Washington Post, the New York Times. So CNN, a lot of you were talking about that. I would put Al Jazeera up in here too. Middle of the road, fact reporting, mostly fact reporting. And as you can see, as we get into more opinionated stuff, we see that it's skewing to the left or to the right down here. So you've got Fox News and New York Post to the right. To the left, you've got like Rachel Maddow and Democracy Now! I think that, what we want is we're going to be looking at a lot of different news outlets and media organizations in this class. And so this is going to give you a good idea of, what is reputable and what are good sources to go to. So the green, we like that. Yellow to a certain extent. And it's kind of telling us also, what to stay away from. OAN, InfoWars, we want to steer clear of some of those sites, okay? So take a look at this media bias chart and feel free to email me, tell me what you think about it, and hopefully this is a resource that will help you. Okay, so I want to go over chapter 2 just a little bit with you. I just want to go over the different sections that you're going to be reading, because this is very important. So we might as well take a little bit of time to discuss some of the things. Chapter 2, like I said, the basic news story. What you're going to be learning is state the focus, the main idea of your story in one sentence. That's the focus, okay? You're going to be learning about to find your lead, ask yourself, what is the most important and most interesting? This is how we're going to be formulating our story. I want you to, when we do get into writing a story, I want you to write it in a conversational tone. I do this all the time with my class. Not with my class, with my news team, with my reporters. I constantly tell them, it's as if you were telling a friend. You want to be conversational. We don't want to use big words that people don't understand. We want people to understand what we're trying to tell them. Consider how your story will affect readers. Consider what photographs, graphics, audio, or video your story needs. Consider how your story could be promoted on social media, okay? The basic news story is told upside down. The end result is given first. It is usually called a hard news story. That doesn't mean it should be hard to read. It really should be called an easy news story because the facts are presented in a direct form that makes it easy for the reader to get the most important information quickly. A hard news story presents the key facts in the first few paragraphs. If a news story were a mystery story, you would solve the mystery in the beginning and then devote the rest of the story to telling the reader how and why it happened. Finding the focus. So not all basic news stories have to start with such a direct approach. Some stories start with a storytelling approach, such as an anecdote about a person or place, but regardless of how you start your story, all news stories are developed around one main point. It's a focus. The rest of the story should contain quotes, facts, and information to support that focus. Basic questions. All news stories answer some of the basic questions of who, what, when, where, why, and how. We'll go over the elements of the basic news story. News stories in all media share some common elements.